Sure, Prabhu.
Okay. Hare Krishna. So today we'll be speaking on one of my favorite verses from Bhagavatam, which is from Canto 6, Chapter 11, and text 24. And if we have time, I might cheat a little bit and share some of the verses that come after that because they're all related in a way. So anyway, we'll see what happens. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminati Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya I'll share my screen. So we'll begin with text 24. Actually, before I recite these verses, I just want to I'll recite the verses first, and then we can talk about the context. So, starting with just verse 24. Aham Hare Tava Padai Kamula Dasanudaso Bhavitasmi Bhuya Manasmareta Supater Gunamste Grinitava Karma Karotu Kaya. I'll recite one more time. Aham Hare Tava Padai Kamula Dasanudaso Bhavitasmi Bhuya Manasmareta Supater Gunamste Grinitava Karma Karotu Kaya. Word for word. Aham, I. Hare, O my Lord. Tava, of your lordship. Pada e kamula, whose only shelter is the lotus feet. Dasanudasa, the servant of your servant. Bhavitasmi, shall I become. Bhuya, again. Mana, my mind. Smareta, may remember. Asupate, of the Lord of my life. Gunan, the attributes. Te, of your lordship. Grinita, may chant. Vak, my words. Karma, activities of service to you. Karotu, may perform. Kaya, my body. Translation. O my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, will I again be able to be a servant of your eternal servant of your eternal servants who find shelter only at your lotus feet? O Lord of my life, may I again become their servant, so that my mind may always think of your transcendental attributes, my words always glorify those attributes, and my body always engage in the loving service of your lordship. Purport. This verse gives the sum and substance of devotional life. One must first become a servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord, Das Anudas. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised, and he also showed by his own example, that a living entity should always desire to be a servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna, the maintainer of the gopis. Gopi Bhartu Pada Kamalayor Das Das Anudas. This means that one must accept a spiritual master who comes in the disciplic succession and is a servant of the Lord. Under his direction, one must then engage one's three properties, namely his body, mind, and words. The body should be engaged in physical activity under the order of the master. The mind should think of Krishna incessantly, and one's words should be engaged in preaching the glories of the Lord. If one is thus engaged in the loving service of the Lord, one's life is successful. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So this verse is, I'm sorry, my camera's to the side, so I'm kind of looking, but this verse is a verse spoken by Vritrasura, who's a demon. And Vritrasura's story spans multiple chapters in the Bhagavatam, but essentially, in his prior life, he was a great king named Chitraketu. And after Chitraketu went through some great challenges, he ended up, he ultimately becomes a very exalted devotee of the Lord. And then one day when he's traveling, he sees Lord Shiva in an assembly of sages, and he has Parvati seated right on his lap, in front of all of these sages. So Chitraketu speaks in kind of a chiding way, but actually glorifying Lord Shiva, saying, how wonderful is it that Lord Shiva, who is the master of his senses, such an exalted Vaishnava, the most exalted Vaishnava, he's sitting in this assembly of sages, and he has his wife seated right on his lap. And Lord Shiva himself understands Chitraketu's heart, and he doesn't say anything, he smiles. But Parvati takes great offense, and so she curses King Chitraketu to become a demon in his next life. And Chitraketu actually very gracefully accepts the curse. And that in itself is a really amazing kind of series of verses where Chitraketu really exemplifies what it means to kind of, turn the other cheek, and so he takes that curse, and then in his next life, he becomes this demon Vritrasura. And there's a lot of events that lead up to the creation of the demon Vritrasura as well. But after Vritrasura is created, he's like a very, very, very intimidating, terrifying demon. Even when all the rest of the demons in the demon army begin to flee, Vritrasura alone, standing before the demigods, terrifies them. And I see your message, Lakshmi Kanta Prabhu, thank you. So Vritrasura alone, he terrifies all the demigods, and he stands before them, and he stands his ground, and he's actually winning against the demigods. But he understands, because he's also a great devotee, he understands the will of the Lord, and he understands that Krishna's intention is for Indra to win this battle. And actually, a few verses before this particular verse, Vritrasura even reminds Indra that you have Vishnu on your side, so you have to fight with enthusiasm, and know that because the Lord is on your side, you will win. So it's very interesting. First of all, Vritrasura is a demon, and but he's also a great devotee of the Lord, and he's encouraging his enemy, telling him that you will defeat me. You have to stand your ground and fight. And so, and then later on, Indra does end up defeating Vritrasura. But before that point, now Vritrasura, he offers these 4 verses in prayer to the Lord. And there's not necessarily too much, like, I guess, philosophical discussion that needs to be had about these verses. These are just very poetic and very beautiful verses that Vritrasura offers to the Lord. And so I wanted to share these, because these have been something that I just very much appreciate for a long time. So in this first verse, Vritrasura is saying, I'll read the translation again. "O my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, will I again be able to be a servant of your eternal servants who find shelter only at your lotus feet? O Lord of my life, may I again become their servant, so that my mind may always think of your transcendental attributes, my words always glorify those attributes, and my body always engage in the loving service of your Lordship." So the way that I'm seeing this verse is I kind of see 2 parts. One aspect is Vritrasura is asking to become the servant of the Lord. And this is the main, aspect of this verse that Prabhupada expands upon, on how the key to becoming close to the Lord is by becoming close to his devotee. And so, but then, why do we want to become close to the devotee? Obviously, because they are very dear to the Lord, but also because their attraction to the Lord will be something that hopefully can rub off on us, and we can also become attracted to the Lord in the same way. And Vritrasura prays that he wants to use all of his faculties in service to the Lord. He wants to use his mind, but in always thinking about the Lord's glories, transcendental qualities, his words in always glorifying those qualities, and his body, all of his senses engaged in serving the Lord. So, this is the main kind of import of this verse. There's not no hidden kind of meaning or anything, but it's just Vritrasura pouring out his heart, and expressing his love for the Lord and how he wants to serve him in all respects. So I'm going to go to the next verse, because these four verses are tied together, and we can discuss at the end if there's any comments. Nanaka preshtam nachaparameshtyam na sarvabhaumam na rasadipatyam na yoga siddhira punarbhavam va samandrasatva virahaya kankshe. Translation. I'll just read the translations of these. O my Lord, source of all opportunities, I do not desire to enjoy in Dhruvaloka, the heavenly planet, or the planet where Lord Brahma resides, nor do I want to be the supreme ruler of the earthly planets or the lower planetary systems. I do not desire to be master of the powers of mystic yoga, nor do I want liberation if I have to give up your lotus feet. So this is another beautiful verse. So first of all, Vritrasura addresses the Lord as Samanjasa, which means giver of all opportunities. And what are the opportunities that the Lord gives? He can give anything. He can give all of these things. He can make Vritrasura the king of the heavenly planets, or Dhruvaloka. He can give him the power or the authority to preside as the ruler over the material realm or the lower planetary systems. He can give him all mystic power. He can even give him liberation from material bondage. But Vritrasura says that I don't want any of these things if it means I have to give up your lotus feet. So it's not even that he's against having these things, but whether he has them or not is completely irrelevant. It's all in relation to whether or not he will be able to hold the Lord's feet close to his heart. And so in this verse, we're hearing Vritrasura express that I don't want anything if it's going to take me away from you. And Prabhupada in the purport, he talks about how a pure devotee has no desire for any material opulences. And, the reason is because they don't want anything that would potentially take them away from the Lord. There's actually some verses that I think that come prior to this where Vritrasura tells Indra, he kind of tells him like, don't worry, Indra, you're very materially situated. Krishna will give you everything that you want materially. You're not, he kind of, I don't know, it's almost like it's like an indirect like diss, where he tells him like, don't worry, you're so attached to your material things, Krishna will give all of that to you. Don't worry, he won't take it away from you. But for a devotee of the Lord, Krishna takes everything away, and the devotee actually is thankful for that. He appreciates that. So this verse is being spoken in that spirit. Next verse. Ajata paksha iva mataram kaga stanyam yata vatsatarakshudarta priyam priyeva vyusitam visanna manoravindaksha didrikshate tvam. O lotus-eyed Lord, as baby birds that have not yet developed their wings always look for their mother to return and feed them, As small calves tied with ropes await anxiously the timing of milking, when they will be allowed to drink the milk of their mothers. Or as a morose wife whose husband is away from home always longs for him to return and satisfy her in all respects, I always yearn for the opportunity to render direct service unto you. So another very poetic verse. So Vitrasara is using three different examples here. He's using the example of a baby bird waiting for its mother to return home, a calf waiting for its mother's milk and waiting for its mother to give it her milk, and then a wife whose husband has been away from home for a long time, who's awaiting his return. And so all of these analogies, can be delved into, and actually Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he does talk about these in a little bit more detail. But the point that Prabhupada's making in this purport here is that a pure devotee is always hankering for the Lord's personal association, and he actually cannot be satisfied until he has that. So one thing that all of these examples have in common, the baby bird is completely dependent on the return of its mother to have sustenance. Similarly, a baby calf tied with a rope is anxious for the time of milking, and it eagerly awaits its mother's milk and that bond. And similarly, a morose wife who's away from her beloved husband, who has been gone for a long time, waits for his return at home, wanting to enjoy with him. And all of these examples are very I don't know what the word is, but they're very tangible, and very, very beautiful depictions of the idea that, the baby bird, the baby calf, the wife waiting for her husband to return home, they can do so much. They can cry out, they can perform so much prayer and austerity, or they can endeavor so much to make their circumstance change. The baby bird can cry all it wants for its mother to return home, but ultimately the baby bird's mother has to decide to return home. So this is the point that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur highlights, which is that in all of these examples, the devotee can cry out for the Lord's mercy, but Vitrasara is saying that, oh Lord, I will cry, I will continue to cry for your mercy, but you have to give it to me. And this is kind of like the bargaining that a pure devotee, this is like the bargaining that a pure devotee is able to engage in with the Lord. In a loving way, the devotee states that I am crying for your association. I want to be with you. I want to be always close to you, rendering direct service to you. But you have to allow me to do that. You have to give me that opportunity. And so this is that point that we are all very familiar with, of the idea of the devotee endeavoring for the mercy of the Lord, but then also the Lord having to choose to give his mercy to the devotee. So this kind of formula is beautifully depicted in these analogies that Vitrasara is using in this verse. And then the final verse, which will have no commentary by Prabhupada, but just a beautiful verse on its own. Mamotama shloka janeshu sakyam samsara chakre brahmatasva karmabhi tvanmaya yatmatma jadadagesh ashakta chittasya nanata bhuyat. Translation: O my Lord, my Master, I am wandering throughout this material world as a result of my fruitive activities. Therefore, I simply seek friendship in the association of your pious and enlightened devotees. My attachment to my body, wife, children, and home is continuing by the spell of your external energy. but I wish to be attached to them no longer. Let my mind, my consciousness, and everything I have be attached only to you. So here Vitrasra is ultimately at the culmination of his prayers, he's stating that I am bound by the karmic influences that your external potency blankets this material creation with, and because of that I simply seek the friendship of your devotees, because your devotees are the only ones that will save me from the material bondage and from this karmic looping. And so then he also states that he wants all of his attachments to be removed. Any attachment that is not directly related to his attachment of the Lord himself, he wishes to be removed, so that his consciousness and everything that he has and is can be fully dedicated to the Lord. So he sees any attachment that is not in that line, whether it be to his body, wife, children, home, these all can be distractions from his attachment to the Lord. So he's stating that I want all of these attachments to be removed, and I just seek the friendship of your devotees, because they will save me from this material bondage. They will save me from this karmic, cycling, and I want to be fully attached to you, O Lord. So I don't have anything else to add to this. These are I apologize, I cheated a little bit. I have 4 verses here instead of 1, but these verses kind of are a package deal. Actually, there's a story of Giriraj Maharaj meeting some one devotee in India, not from ISKCON, but someone from I think it was from Vallabhacharya's sampradaya. But when he heard these, this person shared these verses with him, and then he took these verses back to Prabhupada, because he was sharing that, he was telling Prabhupada that these verses are so beautiful, and Prabhupada pointed out where in the Bhagavatam that he could find them, and apparently these 4 verses are considered like the, I don't know if they're considered necessarily like the Chatur Sloki, but they are like the summary, like this. I mean, how Prabhupada says in his first purport, he says that this verse gives the sum and substance of devotional life. So this verse and really these 4 verses all together are kind of like a full summary of the aspiration and quality of a great devotee of the Lord. So I thought they're very beautiful, and I wanted to share them. So I will stop there. I don't know if anybody has any comments or questions they'd like to share.
Hare Krishna, Mukunda Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Really, these are very capturing the heart of a devotee in these verses. And I wonder, Vritrasura being in that body of the Asura, if that his soul is completely of a devotee, and how can we call him, even though he is in that body of an Asura, how can we call him a demon? I feel, this is so wonderful. King Chitraketu's acceptance of Mother Parvati's curse, and the equanimity and surrender in his way of accepting it. And from then on, I mean, he's completely a devotee. I mean, he has reached that very high platform of tolerance and love of Godhead. And these are really the painting of a devotee's heart, these verses. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna. A beautiful presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji. Yeah. And that actually, this point that you're highlighting is the other thing that I wanted. That part of what makes these verses in particular so beautiful is the fact that they're being spoken by a demon, actually, because you know, obviously, even the word demon, you know, there is so much connotation to that term. You know, what does it? Oh, demon means bad qualities, right? Vidrasara is a demon, and yet he's one of the greatest devotees of the Lord. Like, these are some of the most poetic, beautiful prayers offered in the Bhagavatam, and they're coming from a demon. So yeah, he is a demon in the sense of like his biological kind of creation, but in every other sense of the term, he's truly a devotee at heart. So yeah, thank you for highlighting that.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Mukunda.
Hare Krishna,
Prabhupada.
Yes.
Nice class, nice realizations. I had, when you started this verse, I was thinking about, its first thing is, okay, become a devotee of the Lord, chant the name of the Lord, but you surrender to the devotees of the Lord, but not to the Lord. Now, what is this? You know what I mean? So you're asking, oh, chant Hare Krishna, and then you're doing serving Krishna, but now you're asking, become a servant of Krishna. Naham vipro chanarapatir na api vaishyo na sudro naham varnicha grahapatir namanasto yatirva kintu prodya nikila paramananda purnamurte gopi varta padakamalayur dasa dasa anudasa. So I was thinking, why Krishna is telling this? You're telling surrender to Krishna. And Bhagavad Gita says, aham sarva dharman parityaja, surrender to me, right? He doesn't say in the end of the Bhagavad Gita, surrender to my devotees. He is not telling that. He's telling surrender to me. And now in this verse, when you started, then why should I surrender to? And we are thinking about just surrendering to Krishna. Why are we thinking about surrendering to, or become a servant of servant. That was my thought. But in that 4 verses, you gave these 4 verses, what you read, it gave me a summary of why you should surrender to the devotees of Krishna. That was the answer for the 4th verse, right? The one which you said. Then I got, oh, okay, this is what, see, you know, you don't know, doesn't matter. But when you're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, the churning happens. And even sometimes feel that, oh, I don't know, why is he telling this? Right? So the thought it came to me, why should I really surrender to Krishna? Surrender to the devotees of Krishna. Then I was thinking I should ask this to you. So
I think your point is, I was thinking about the same thing as when I came across these verses, like, because I think if we were to be very like just direct in terms of like our speech, like what is the goal of Krishna consciousness? It is to become attracted to Krishna. It's to please Krishna. We don't really typically say like it is to please the devotees who please Krishna, although that is also there. So to your point is a good one, but and the reason why that I feel that this emphasis on becoming close to the devotees of Krishna and then by extension becoming close to Krishna is actually, I was just asking this to the Sunday school students a couple of weeks ago, and one of the girls had a really great answer. I asked them, why do you practice Krishna consciousness? And then one of the answers that one of the girls gave was that I practice because I've seen devotees who are exhibiting some type of like bliss. They are experiencing something when they practice Krishna consciousness, and me seeing them experience something makes me want to experience it too. Wow, and nice. That's what the entire Bhagavatam is, right? We're reading about the experiences of the devotees in relation to Krishna. Especially 10th canto, we get to hear about the experiences of all the residents of Vrindavan in relation to Krishna. And then by following them, we can become attracted to Krishna that way. I mean, that's what Raganuga Bhakti is. So, and that's what our goal is. So I think if I were to answer this question, I would say that the reason why there's so much emphasis on becoming attracted to the devotees of Krishna is because that is the way to become attracted to Krishna. There's no way to become attracted directly to him without hearing about his devotees and their relation to him. So, yeah.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
But I
Thank you
would
for
like,
that.
I don't know if you have anything to add, Prabhu.
No, I think it is nice.
Yeah.
But even though you serve Krishna, you may not feel, Krishna won't reciprocate with you directly. No, unless you are a very pure devotee like Goswamis or Prabhupada. So the way we experience is only with the others. I think that girl, whoever it is, says really very nice realizations. Thank you for that. Actually, in that way, it will help us to. This is why we need to hear and discuss and hear and discuss. At least it will register in our minds, because our minds goes everywhere. Anyway, this will help us to encourage each other. Yes, you have to be like that. In that way, we can practice Krishna consciousness. Another thing also, the other day when I read the verse from Brahma, that Brahma is praying, I will, even in spite of having is a secondary creator of whole universe, right? Of course, he is everything. But he says, I want to become a blade of grass in the Vrindavan. And then he thinks about, no, I want to become Vrindavan. Vishnu Chakravarti says, no, he want to just become a stone, because at least this is a living entity. Living entity in the sense, the grass has something, at least it has a consciousness. Stone doesn't have any consciousness kind of thing. It's just a stagnant thing. Right. So let me become stone so that people can step on me. And then Prabhupada says, no, not even Vrindavan. Let me become some blade of grass somewhere outside Vrindavan, so that they can devotees come and stamp on me while coming and entering and then going back. So if you really relate all this to these verses, Brahma himself is telling, I want to take the dust of the holy feet of, not the lotus feet, dust of the holy feet of the devotees. So what you see, what is talking about? Just taking, not the association, just take the dust of the devotees. How then that means Brahma himself saying that, what are we?
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. Beautiful.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anybody else have any final comments? Okay. Thank you all so much for being patient with me, and thank you for allowing me to cheat and share 4 verses instead of 1, but I couldn't resist. So I hope that you appreciated these verses as well. Thank you. Hare Krishna.